I picked up this bar of soap. That's really all it is in Lisbon, Portugal at the end of last year. Went there with my mom. We went to this incredible store that sold this just extraordinary variety of beautiful things. And I want to open this with you and think together about both how beautiful it is and what it represents about dictatorship. So, if you don't know, and I didn't know before I went to Lisbon, between the 1920s and the 1970s, for more than 4 decades, that country lived under a fascist dictatorship. Antonio Oliveira Salazar was first the economics minister and then the prime minister under a military dictatorship that he then ran with an iron fist. And this guy was sort of the ultimate fascist. If we think about fascism as people, who just will not broach any kind of dissent, any questioning of things, he gave a famous speech in which he talked about the unquestionable truths of being Portuguese. That in Portugal, we do not question the nature of the family. We do not question colonialism and Portugal's place in the world. It was sort of doing away with these things as if they are settled matters. And under his dictatorship, people were disappeared all over the place, to the point where the creative and academic and intellectual classes got absolutely crushed. So much so that if you were to use a fricking typewriter that wasn't registered with the government, you could be dimed out by a bufo, an informant, and then the PDA, the secret police, would come and get you, and you'd be shipped off to some colony and die there and never see your family again. I picked up this piece of this soap, not knowing this history really, and then looking into this company, Klaus Porto. I want to in no way suggest that this company is in any way complicit in any of this. What I'm describing here is how the beauty of this object is a reaction, I think, to dictatorship. That I think of it as sort of what happens to a society when dictatorship crushes the natural human desire for free expression out of them. So I'm going to open this as we go here. I mean, literally, this thing is it's like a piece of jewelry. It's an incredible object. It's like opening a watch or something. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And during this time, while Salazar was in charge, many horrible laws were passed, including ones that consigned women to domestic duties. Women were not allowed to be in public life or intellectual or professional life. They were forbidden from being all sorts of things. And as a result, this whole, like, they were supposed to be in the home, just sort of taking care of the kids and cleaning. And as a result, a whole world of sort of domestic worship became part of the design vernacular in Portugal, so that over and over again, and to this day, they sell these gorgeous packaged soaps for cleaning and all of this stuff. And to me, I just think of these as, and there's a whole amazing tile work sort of tradition there. And, I think about a country in which you weren't allowed to have truly cathartic art. You weren't allowed to express anger or disappointment or frustration or any of those things through your art. You had to deal with intense censorship. And so if you are a beautifully creative person, as Portugal has an incredible history of being, you can't do any of that through any kind of genuine outrage you might have about the dictatorship. But you can pour yourself into this kind of acceptable decorative art. And so this incredible history of decorative art, this tradition and industry of it, has become this part of Portuguese culture and identity. And this company, Klaus Porto, which makes this beautiful soap, check this out. Look at this. Like, you take it out and it's beautifully hand wrapped in wax paper. And even the way that the rope is wrapped is like a piece of jewelry. And then you pop it open and there it is, It's soap on a rope, right? I mean, this could be in the United States a very mundane thing, but they just make it absolutely beautiful. Also, this whole room smells beautiful now that I've opened this. And, it is just this gorgeous piece of design. But this is all you were really allowed to do, right? So when you look at the incredible tradition of, toy design and graphic design and all of these incredible pieces of decorative art, these pieces of soap laid out like jewelry in this store. On the one hand, I look at that and I think, wow, beautiful, amazing. On the other hand, I think, man, these were people who could not express themselves in any other way. And when I think today about like, what it is to be in this crazy moment where, we're seeing, some very scary behavior on the part of the people at the top of this country, and we're seeing traditional critics of that kind of thing being very quiet about that. And then we have something like the Oscars at the same time, where we lean into the celebrity and the beauty and this sort of acceptable creativity. And and that becomes kind of the focus for the night. There's an escapist quality to it that I dig. Like, I understand it. I lose myself in video games. I lose myself in beauty and museums and so forth. Like, I nerd out on architecture really hard. And these are ways of sort of losing oneself, getting away from the distractions of how sort of big a political moment we are in, where we're like turning our backs on our allies and we're talking about, invading Greenland and, all kinds of stuff. But I think about this and I think, wow, if this is sort of a mark of the kind of creative beauty that results from a group of people crushed under an oppressive regime. And I just want to sort of like, I'm marking for myself and I want to mark for you the possibility that in the coming years, we should just be sensitive to the idea that when really beautiful distractions like this come along, they are distractions. And it's something to watch out for as we think together about sort of what the country is doing and how we want the country to be. It's a mark of something, I would say, not fully healthy and fully formed in the creative spirit of a nation. And so, when I think across acceptable forms of artistic expression under an authoritarian regime, I think about the decorative arts. I think about furniture design. I think about, a nice lipstick. I think about, right, these sort of comforting, distracting forms of aesthetic pleasure that at the same time don't tolerate, or don't include other forms of expression. I don't know about you, but like for me, popular music these days, there's a handful of people trying to do, very, political expression, for instance, through music. But you don't hear a lot of that, when during the second Bush administration, when we invaded Iraq, I remember, there were songs like Bombs Over Baghdad by Outkast that was like, that made the rounds, but it didn't really play on the radio. And instead, more and more, it was sort of love songs and a lot of kind of like sexy strip club songs. And, there wasn't kind of political expression that was being popularized. And to me, there's a lot of music right now, that there are people who are expressing themselves politically. Kendrick, right? Obviously doing a tremendous job of that. But there's not as much of that as you might want or hope. So I'm just thinking about the broad appetite, the commercial appetite for distraction and comfort. Mos Def once was forced in an interview Yassine Bey was asked what he thought of Drake's music, and he very reluctantly said, it reminds me of shopping. And I feel like there's a kind of shopping art that I feel like is going to be part of our future that we need to watch out for, because I think it is beautiful smells great, looks great. It's really fun to unwrap, but it's a distraction. So let's learn from the people who have done this before about the intoxicating, numbing quality of acceptable expression as compared to the sharp, incisive, protest-driven art that I think is probably more necessary in this coming phase.